For today's DC Multiverse review, we are looking at the Red Platinum Edition Saturn Girl. Before I talk about the accessories and the figure, let's take a quick look at the data profile card. As you can see, there is this beautiful comic book artwork of Saturn Girl, and on the backside of the card, you do have a read-up for who the character is, and there is a typo with her first name. It says Irma Ardeen, and then right here it says Imra Ardeen. I'm assuming this is the correct pronunciation, so let's just go with that. Imra Ardeen is a supremely powerful telepath trained by elite mentalists on her birthplace Saturn's moon, Titan. She was invited to join the United Planets Youth Delegation for Peace with fellow exceptional teens Rock Kryn and Garth Rands, hopefully I pronounced their names correctly. While being interviewed by United Planets President R.J. Brand, their ship was attacked by terrorist species the Horus Collective. The assault was repulsed by the teens. An opportunistic Brand suggested a chance to make a real difference to civilization by reviving the mythic age of heroes as a legion of superheroes that could operate like Metropolis is the legendary champion Superman. Imra realized that this was how she could best use her amazing psionic abilities. And that's a pretty good read-up on who Saturn Girl is as a character. And speaking of Legion of Superheroes, it is quite unfortunate that we are not going to get any more characters for this team in this iteration of DC Multiverse, because Mcfarlane decided to start making the characters for this team in a very late schedule. At the time, I don't think he realized that he was going to lose the license. Probably why he took his time. After like a good 3-4 years. By year 5, I think, was when they finally got to the first character of this team, which was Lightning Lad. I don't remember when the first character came out. There's been so many DC Multiverse figures dropping every single year for this line. It's hard to remember who came out what year. But all I know is that Lightning Lad came out first, and then within a span of a year later, that was when we got Cosmic Boy. And then this year, the final year, we got Saturn Girl with the Supergirl movie wave. So, one figure per year for this team. Now, of course, these 3 characters are the 3 main ones that were introduced in the comics, where they came from the future, they went to the past, right? And they were the representative of the Legion of Superheroes. So having a trio is great, but I would love to see more characters for this team. But since that's not going to happen, hopefully when Mattel makes their DC line, whatever those action figures will look like, hopefully they will do some real team building with the Legion of Superheroes. Because this team, in my opinion, is a cool one to have for the shelf too. And if you did grow up watching the Legion of Superhero cartoon like I did, yeah, you would have an attachment to these characters, because that cartoon series really made me love this team. It's not a bad cartoon series to pick up. It was short-lived. I think it was only 1 season, which was very short. Or maybe 2 seasons. I don't remember. But yeah, do give it a watch if you've never seen it before. All right, let's move on to the accessories. And when it comes to accessories, she basically comes with the same stuff like Aztec, interchangeable hands, 2 of them. So as you can see on the action figure, she does have the fist hands equipped. Those were the interchangeable hands. And the ones by default on the actual action figure are the open gesture hands, as you can see right here. And that's basically all you get for accessories. Now, speaking of details, you can see right here that the ring is actually sculpted on the finger. And there is the detail of the L and the star, which is visible. That is done nicely. For some reason, they did not screw up doing that on, her fingers being so small. And you can see the same thing right here with the fist hand, where that detail is also there as well. Explain to me why they can never do this right with the Green Lantern figures. Because with the Green Lanterns, whenever they do their rings on their finger, like the middle finger or whatever finger they wear their Green Lantern rings on, sometimes it just looks like a green smudge and you don't even see the logo. They just cheap out on those. But then for this one, They did not. They actually put an effort to make it visible even at this tiny of a scale. So I don't know what the heck is going on there, but the Green Lanterns have had it rough, right? If you have any of the Green Lantern figures from McFarlane, you would know what I'm talking about, because sometimes some of them just look like a smudge, a green smudge, and you barely see the lantern emblem. It's just sad. All right. That is basically all the accessories that she comes with. Not a whole lot, which is quite unfortunate, but for a red platinum figure, having, two interchangeable hands is better than not having anything, as we've seen with the past for some of these red platinum chases. And for the other thing, if you want to count this as an accessory, which I don't, she comes with this, so you do get the stand as well. And that is basically everything in this box. All right, let's move on to the aesthetics now. Taking a closer look at Saturn Girl, let's start with the aesthetics of her costume. As you can see, it's very simple in terms of the colors. It's mainly just pink and white in this sort of pattern style design. So for the middle of her costume, it's mainly just all white. And then on the side, it's all pink, where you have this sort of half and half color. For the arms, it's a little bit different. You have the pink on the inward and you have the white on the outward, right? And then when you look at the back of the costume, it's the same sort of thing as well. The pink is all connected to the pink on the arm, and then the white parts are also all connected to the white parts as well. And overall, I like the fact that the colors are done in this way, because at least when it comes to the way that it is applied, it actually doesn't look too bad. Now, unfortunately, though, the butterfly joints are not painted with the pink, which I think is a downside, because if there was some pink painted on the half of the butterfly joints, it would actually make it look more proper when it connects, right? Because you have this weird gap. Now, I know the butterfly joints do move around and rotate, but even then, it just would be better if they did fill the colors in right there, so you don't have this weird gap that looks awkward. But that is the downside with the butterfly joints. Now, for other aesthetics, you do have the belt here, which I think the belt is nicely sculpted. It is a brand new sculpted piece for this figure. It's not a reuse of anything that I can see from any existing thing that I can remember having this sort of belt. So you do have the pouches on each side. There is some texturing going on the surface, as well as the side here with the straps. And in the middle, you do have the Legion of Superheroes logo. On the other side, you do have the same pouches again with the same patterns. And overall, they did this pretty well when it comes to the sculpt. And of course, on the back, it is all connected. So there is a look at the belt. And of course, up top here for the torso, you do have the Saturn logo, which is right in the center. I'm not sure if that's painted or just, printed on, but it's a pretty nice shape for the planet of Saturn. It just looks very cartoony, which is kind of cool. And now, speaking of the other aesthetics when it comes to the figure mold, I'm not sure what parts are reused here. Now, I can tell that the arms and the legs are probably reused from the Catwoman figure that came out in the Batman 2022 movie wave. They look like the same parts. The waist area, I think, is the same as well. I don't remember. I don't have the ice figure out right now. If I did, I would probably be able to spot the similarities. However, for the upper torso, I think that is a retool. I think it's brand new. I don't think it's a reuse of anything. If it is, correct me in the comments below, because I don't remember what is used on what figure, right? Like sometimes I do, but in this case, it looks like a mismatch of like parts that are like reused and some new parts. So that torso definitely looks like a new part. But overall, does it work for the look of the character? I think it does, right? In this case, the reuse isn't a bad thing, because as you can see, with the pink and white areas of the suit, there is all this sort of texture design going on. So instead of like leaving it all flat and just white, the texturing does allow these areas to stand out on the suit itself. So in this case, whatever they're reusing works, and it's not completely lazy. Now, of course, the last thing here that we're going to talk about for the aesthetics is the face sculpt, and I think this face sculpt came out very beautifully. I like the fact that she's smiling. I wish she did have an alternate head sculpt with a different expression, but for a expression like this to just have on your shelf all the time, not bad. I like the fact that she is smiling, and you can see the way that they painted her hair, which does have this sort of wash over it. Now, it's not the best kind of wash. I think they could have done a better job here if it was like more of like a, you know, a matte finish, sort of like blonde color without this sort of weird roughness to the wash here. I think it would look better. But overall, it is what it is, and it's not bad. And also on the side of her ears, she does have her earrings in the shape of the planet of Saturn, if you don't know what they're supposed to be. So there is all the aesthetics for Saturn Girl. Very simplistic, but some of the parts that are brand new, they did a pretty good job with. And one last thing, here's a look at her feet, the shoes that she's wearing, right? So there is all that. And now it's time we move on to the articulation. Starting off with the articulation for Saturn Girl's head sculpt, can she look up? She can look up about this much, which is actually pretty decent. And what makes this good is that if you want to get her into a flight pose, you can pull that off. And the fact that she doesn't have long hair doesn't restrict her neck articulation in comparison to this Wonder Woman, for example, right? Where her long hair is definitely going to restrict a lot of the movements with the head sculpt articulation. Looking down, she can also look down pretty decently, which is not bad. Turning her head to the left and right, she can do. Tilting her head side to side, she can also do. So the overall articulation for the head sculpt here is pretty good for a female superhero character, especially from Mcfarlane, because it's really rare where we get a superhero female character where her hair isn't actually hindering the articulation of the head sculpt. So that is cool to see. All right, for the arm articulation, she can lift out her arm this much. She can swing it back and forth this much. She does have bicep rotation on the arms there. She also has double jointed, and she has swivel in the hands as well as wrist articulation, which unfortunately it does not work on my copy of the figure because it seems like it's very stiff. So there's a downside there, but it should work as usual. And something else I just noticed. Her belt is not glued on. This actually is a loose piece for some reason, like it moves. Look at this. I don't think it's supposed to do that, but there's that problem. I just want to point that out. All right, for the upper torso articulation, there is a very good range of rotation right here for the movements. It's very loose, but also not in a bad way. And for leaning forward, surprisingly, she can lean forward that much, which is very uncommon for a DC Multiverse figure from Mcfarlane. Now, is it the best ab crunch? No. Of course, you can probably make this lean forward a lot more, but for a non-modified, articulation, this is actually pretty good. What the heck is going on here? So she can lean forward that much. She can lean back this much. I mean, look at that. That is actually decent. That is surprising. Once again, they catch me off guard. Every time they do this, I always wonder, why can't we just repeat the same thing on every other figure? But they just don't do it. So whenever there's one that does it, I'm like, yay. It actually has decent articulation with a sort of like crunch forward in this case. So there's that. And then for the rotation down here, it does move a little bit. It's really stiff because this copy is new. And of course, it does lean forward a little bit. It doesn't really exactly lean back. So the waist area is not great when it comes to the articulation. It seems like the upper torso just has the better range of movement. Now, for the legs, can she split out the legs? She can split out about this much. That's basically it. She can't do a full split, which is quite unfortunate. And she can only kick out about this much, which actually is a pretty decent kick. So there's that. She does have double jointed in the legs. And she also has articulation in the feet, swivel, and toe articulation. So overall, when it comes to the articulation for Saturn Girl here, I would say it is pretty decent. You can get her into some good flight poses. You can get her into some good action poses potentially. And yeah. Now, one last thing before we forget. Does she have thigh swivels? No, she does not. It is frozen shut. Well, there you go. You lose out on that on this one. That is unfortunate. But there it is. That is all the articulation for Saturn Girl. I would say it's good enough. But of course, if you do have this figure and you want to modify the articulation and make it a lot better, you can do so as well. And now, let's move on to some comparisons. For the first comparison, here is Saturn Girl next to the new collector edition Wonder Woman. And honestly, having the two of them next to each other, they do go good on the shelf together since they are both comic book designs. And I do like how the colors bounce off each other because this one does have the brighter colors going on with the look of her costume. And of course, this is based on the 90s version of Wonder Woman. The hairstyle very much screams the 90s because I think that was the same period that She-Hulk that I have is also from, where she also has that similar hairstyle as well. And yeah, there is the first comparison here. And for the second comparison, here she is next to the Poison Ivy from this wave. And honestly, this is not a bad comparison as well. I think these two probably go good next to each other, even though one's a supervillain and the other one's a superhero. But nevertheless, if you want to put them next to each other, you can, and it will work. So there she is with Poison Ivy. And for the next comparison, here she is next to something that's not DC Multiverse. This is the Blocky's Marvel rival Invisible Woman, and she is not standing. And funny enough, both of these characters wearing this sort of like white suited costume, they both have texturing going on. This has texture on all the white parts, which is very surprising for a model kit. And it very much feels like an action figure as well. So there's a comparison. As you can see, this is not in scale with DC Multiverse, but it is in scale with Marvel Legends. So that's nice. And speaking of Marvel Legends, here she is next to the Marvel Rivals Punisher, which is honestly one of my favorite Marvel Legend figures I picked up as of recent. I very much like how they did this guy with the articulation, sculpt, everything. So there's that. And I will have a review for this guy in the future. That will happen. So that'll be the first Marvel Legend review in a while, actually. And for the next comparison, which will be the last one, here she is next to G2 Swoop for whatever reason. I just want to throw Transformers in here. So there you go. Got him in his dinosaur mode. And that is going to be all the comparisons. Now, if you made it to the end of this review, I thank you because we're going to do a live unboxing right now. Something did arrive, and I'm not going to edit this portion out. I am actually going to grab my box cutter because I am very much surprised by how this item arrived this quickly somehow. But it did. So let me just move Saturn Girl out of the review station for now. And let's cut open this box on the side. Just want to make sure that everything in here is doable. Okay. Oh my goodness. It's what I've expected. Wow. Oh, it's here. Oh my goodness. All right, let's get this out. Okay, what arrived today? You're wondering if you made it by the end of this video? There you freaking go. Look at what arrived. It is, of course, the San Diego Comic-Con White Lantern Kyle Rayner. You have that San Diego Comic-Con sticker down there. And, of course, the figure inside. Here's the side of the box right in this glory. We have the name on this side. And we have the background as well. There you go. I will have a review for this in the future, very future, not right now. And there is one more arriving tomorrow, which is going to be the Red Hood. So that's going to be exciting. But yeah, there you go. I did get this. It was from the EQL. If you're wondering how I got this, I got selected, and that's how I was able to purchase the Kyle Rayner. So, all right, let's put Saturn Girl back on the table. And that's basically gonna be it for today's review for the Red Platinum Edition Saturn Girl figure. If you did find today's review informative, do give this video a like. If you want to subscribe to the channel for more action figure content and whatever else I do on here, it would be much appreciated. And one last thing, I apologize for how slow the reviews have been when it comes to the content uploaded on this channel. I've been busy with work. This is why things have been slow. But I thank all of you for your support, and I hope you guys continue to stick around. And with that said, take care, and I will see you in the next video.